Life isn't perfect, and neither are we.
Nope. But we know how to face our fears
And have some fun.
and talk about all the messiest things of life.
Like the messiest things.
Get connected to yourself, get connected to others, and get connected to the life right in front of you.
This is The Connected Life with Justin and Abby.
That's me.
That's you.
And you.
It's a real big day for me today.
Okay.
Yeah, huge events taking place.
Uh-huh.
Brand new action figure from NECA is being released on Target. That's true. And I'm in good company today because when it launches, okay, historically they've had these experiences when they launch, scalpers, which are the evil people that buy toys and then resell them on eBay, have special bots. And these bots go out and they buy all the product up so all the collectors can't have them, right?
This is like a real thing. This is a very intense,
And so you have
emotional battle for all the adult toy collectors.
Maybe 1 to 5 minutes to get your action figure before they're gone online altogether. So today, though, we have a mom on this podcast who will understand my need to get this action figure. So if I stop us abrasively, it's because I have to order it. I have my phone with me.
With the timer set?
No, the alert when it goes online.
Oh. So you don't know?
I've created an intricate system so that when it goes online on Target, it will email me. My email system will pop up with a notification and say, your product is in stock. I will then jump out of this seat and I will purchase it.
And okay, great. That's good.
It may not happen
ready.
during this time, but I'm on the edge. I'm waiting for that.
I'm on the edge.
I'm as excited about this action figure as I am about our guest.
Oh, good transition. Good transition.
He must be real excited about you.
Did I get an email alert?
No.
That's funny. Today we have one of my friends, Jenna Zent, who's on our podcast, and I'm so excited to have you on here. I think I've actually wanted you on here for years. We haven't done it for years. I've just always thought you should be involved in whatever I do, probably. She is a mom of 3. She has the freaking cutest kids on the planet. She has her own business, which is an amazing business. It's called Turbans for Tots. And I always joke that God gave you the cutest, most beautiful, expressive children just so that you could start a business with, because she makes headbands for adults and hats and
baby stuff.
Baby
Lots of
stuff.
bows. Yeah.
Face mask now?
Yeah.
Face masks, all the things you could ever want. But she has the most beautiful children. So I was like, of course it sold when you started.
You're like, give me my baby so I can take pictures of them.
Yeah,
the internet. It's true.
So you broke the internet. She's a mom of 3. She runs her own business, runs a mom's group with 100 or more moms. And also lives her life and loves it. And one of the reasons I wanted to have her on the podcast is because part of this podcast is inspiring people to live and find how to be fully alive and be connected to themselves and others and to the life in front of them and not be a victim to the world. And as long as I've known Jenna, which I think has been almost 11 years, she has always been loving life in every season, in the good seasons, in the bad seasons. She has found it's like the option door C. I always say that there is secret option C. She's always finding how to thrive and how to enjoy life in the midst of, the normalcies of the ups and downs. So welcome. We're so glad to have you here.
Plus, you're funny.
Yes.
That's high praise. Thank you.
Justin said, is she going to be a boring, inspiring speaker or a funny one?
Wow. Considering you've known me for 8 years, maybe I'm not as
She
funny.
made that up.
I made that up. I did.
She's throwing me under buses for no reason whatsoever.
I do that to my husband too.
Yep.
It's for a joke. It's for a joke. He's like, I didn't say that. I'm like, it was relatively the point.
Okay. Has it only been 8 years that we've known each other?
I didn't meet Justin for a while. We met over. I was like, he was busy doing crafts with his dolls, and we were.
They're not dolls, Jenna, and you know it. They're action figure collectibles.
Toys. Is that the PC? Toys.
Twice.
They're adult collectibles.
Sorry, I have 2 girls.
I don't
dolls
collect
is my
dolls.
verbiage. It's true. It's not you. It's me.
Okay, I collect dolls for boys.
It's true. He does. Okay, so why don't we start with do you want to just give us a summary of you growing up and what that was like? And we'll start there.
Okay. Yeah. So it's me. I came from a family of 4. I have one brother who's like 17 months younger than I am, but he's like 6'2" and has like a full beard. So
I always thought he was your older brother.
Everyone thinks he's his older brother. I'm like, I can't compete with a full beard, which I'm pretty sure my husband's glad that I can't compete with a full beard. But,
absolutely.
Yeah. So we grew up, my parents were both teachers. We lived actually on a small little island off the coast of North Carolina. So
I didn't know you lived on an island.
Yeah. Yeah. It was epic. It's like 100 miles long and 1 mile wide. So it was cool because you could get to the water either way, like real quick with a little bike ride. So
this is cool.
It was actually really cool. It shaped me wanting to be outside so much.
Yeah.
So like my husband's from Phoenix. When we got married, we realized like, why is everything fun for you inside? Like in fun is like confining. And then we realized like we just played outside, like
in
at
Phoenix,
the beach.
You're going to die outside.
Oh, you literally hide from the sun. Yeah.
Yes.
They bring ice to their pool parties to put in the pool. It's bad. It's next level.
That's real? Oh my gosh.
Like blocks of ice. Anyways. So we grew up, my parents actually, get a little more somber, did not have an awesome marriage. So they were their fights would erupt to lots of anger and they got violent and big and it was not fun. And they probably got divorced. They got divorced around middle school. And it was interesting because by the time they got divorced, I was very grateful they got divorced.
Right. You're like, just please save me from both of you. Yeah, you get caught in the crossfire.
Truly. Like as kids, like once you get that angry at each other, it would spill over to us because they didn't have, they're still riled up.
They were in their triggers.
Yep.
You don't know who is going to be in the line of fire. Once you're triggered, it's just coming out.
Literally. Yeah. And then it's funny because we grew up in the church, we're all still in the church. But we all love Jesus. It's funny. Let me put it like that. My brother now loves Jesus and other people as well. So he's not as much a Christian. But my parents didn't get divorced for the longest time because biblically they didn't have a reason. And but I'm like, isn't like this anger and abusiveness that is happening, like that's the reason.
That feels
very, I'm like, okay guys, can we amend this a bit? But so by the time they got a divorce, I was very grateful. Yes. And but my dad, they still lived in the same town. My mom, this is a true story, lived on 1st Street and my dad lives on 3rd Street.
Oh,
so they're not amiable, but they live that close to each other, which is great. And then but growing up though, so my mom was a teacher, we'd have all the summers off and we would actually do these, like, she always loved to travel or do trips, but we had like zero money. So we had this pop-up camper that when we got it, it was 30 years old. And this tells you how quality it was. It was $1,000 or somewhere between $700 and $1,000 fully furnished. So like I think the second time we used it, I like turned over in the middle of the night and like ripped a whole dry rotted like hole. My mom like hand sewed it, but she was like dedicated because like no money wasn't going to keep her down. We usually went without my dad because of said marital problems. But we would like pack tuna salad and we would do it. So we had like a lot of like, man, I saw so much of the East Coast for weeks and weeks. So she instilled kind of resourcefulness that my brother and I still have. My brother has done lots of crazy trips and adventures. And it's funny because sometimes people are like, where did that come from? Like, I think it came from our camping tuna fish days.
It's kind of fun to hear things like that because I think parents can forget when they're in the middle of it. Like parents could feel shame about what they don't have to offer their kids.
Right.
Not understanding that like, oh, your mom buying this crappy camper with tuna fish sandwiches was actually creating something inside of you guys that would bring you lots of joy for the rest of your life.
Yeah. It's true. And it's funny because beyond just like the vacations, she literally taught us like you were saying, the option C thing. Like, okay, we can't do this or this way. What else can we do? So instead of like getting stuck, like I feel that really much in my life, like what I can't do. I'm like, but what can I do? It's like, I don't get, it's almost like if you're blindly feeling around a wall, you're like, okay, there's no door there. There's got to be another gate somewhere. Like, okay, so I'll respect your no, but what about over here? I haven't tried over there. So I think just not getting pigeonholed is, I rarely get stuck.
I want to add something that's kind of cool. I mean, just given that there was areas of your childhood that felt pretty scary or intense, abusive in ways, violent, whatever that looked like inside of that space. For me, I went into a deep place of learned powerlessness inside of my environment where you ended up finding resourcefulness, which is very interesting because for me, at some point I was like, oh, there's nothing you can do to change anything. Yeah. This is just the way it is, which I love that you were able to see it sounds like at a young age or in your journey to go, oh my gosh, There is no not. I'm just going to figure out how. And I think that that's really beautiful that you were able to do that. And I'm excited to hear more of like how you did that.
Thanks. It's funny because even like when I was in high school and it was like pretty rough and not fun to be home, I ended up, it's funny because I didn't realize, you know how when you're younger, you're not aware of your motivations as much too. So looking back, I'm like, oh, like I was actually on so many boards growing up because my mom
like at high school
would control like, okay, you can't, like if I ever, like no friends, no church, like church would be a thing she'd take away because she'd want me to learn life's not fair. So you need to know that everything's not fair all the time. Don't go to youth group, whatever. So, but she was, she's really
the one thing I was forced to go to when I was in trouble.
Anything that looked fun. She was like, no, like I can take that away.
You.
Yeah, totally. But she's really big, being an educator. She had a real high value for education. So she was like, you're padding your chances for getting into a good college.
Right.
So guys, I'm not even kidding. By my senior year, it was absurd. Like, I started out on like, I was on a youth council and then like, because I was so good, I became the like student rep for the adult Parks and Rec board.
What?
And then because of that, I met other people on the board. So then at one point I was on like the 4-H board, but I never was in 4-H, but I was on their board. And then I, like, as the student rep for all it was me and a bunch of adults. And then I was like retired teachers for literacy. I'm not kidding. I was like, at one point I was like, wait, why am I here? And I would like present to our city chambers like often, but not, I was like it was a perfect match of I wasn't at home and they wanted a token child. To show their diversity and their opinions they were getting. So I was just on a ton of stuff.
Which is, I mean, again, a great example of resourcefulness of, okay, I don't want to be trapped.
Yeah.
And I'm not allowed to do all these things that look fun to my mom. So how can I have fun with retired seniors for literacy?
Oh, it's so true. And it, like, I realized that it was like, oh, this is actually helping my college too. So I actually got an amazing scholarship because of all the boards. So thanks, retired teachers.
Thanks, Mom, for being crazy so that I could get, totally. So tell us a little bit about what it was like as you were growing up. You have a high value for fun.
Yeah.
So tell us about that value and then how you learned to create that in different seasons.
I think a lot of times it's funny, the things I look back and like, why did I do that? Like, why did I, like, for instance, when I was like a senior in high school in our youth group, there was this like timid homeschooled 10th grader, and I went to a large public school. But he was like intense about working out, so he's super shy. So he had rippling. He's actually a professional bodybuilder now. It's funny, like one of those tan.
A lot of homeschoolers are they become
bodybuilders.
Well, no, they just have to. They have to make up for their ego that got broken. I say that as a homeschool kid, but I know
she can say it.
I know a lot of my friends who are like, I will take over the world so I can prove to everyone I belong.
That might be true. Levi, I don't know if that was your motivation. Sorry in advance. But anyway, so I realized I wanted him to go to this like dance with me. So I made a shirt. I printed his face like on a shirt, like a baby face of him. And then like now, and I was like, I'll have what he's having or something like how do you get from there to there?
That's
I wore this shirt
hysterical.
around. And now I look back, I'm like, why did I? But it's more like I take things that in the moment sound like this is fun. I'm like, I'm going to take it to the level. Things that both people level. Actually, they just
totally
joke
random.
about doing it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm going to actually do it. I'm going to commit and this is going to be hilarious.
like your spirit days.
Oh, yes. We were talking about, I have a 7-year-old and this morning it was a spirit day at her little elementary school and I went crazy and I tapped into like face paint, head to toe yellow, and my husband was like, I think a yellow shirt would have been just fine. And I was like, you don't understand. In high school, I went like crazy for spirit week. It was like my favorite time. And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah, I had for our grades, we had one of the days would always be class color and I had full length 80s ball gowns that I would wear and I'd acquire them and I'd shop for just the perfect one. And then I'd wear all year and then I would like very intentionally like pass it down to a girl in the grade under me, be like, you need to take care of this. Like, this is special wear. So I just went crazy. And it was funny because my husband was saying that he actually did the opposite. He wouldn't participate because he was worried about like looking foolish or people thinking he's uncool. Yeah. And I just realized early on that like, I remember like in 9th grade being like, oh, caring this much about what people think about me, one, limits my fun and limits it's a drain. It's like a drain in your cup. You can't keep filling up if this is constantly.
Yeah.
But then also I think a real key that I got early that most people didn't is actually they wish they were having fun, or they wish they were doing what I was doing. They might be mocking me, but it's actually a defense of I'm not like that looks more fun than I'm having, but I'm not bold enough to do that. So the naysayers,
I'm courageous.
Like you actually wish you were me. In this full length 80s ball gown, you're welcome.
So would you say that insecurity and defeatism are probably two of the top reasons why people don't actually move forward with like having fun, doing things that they want?
Yep. 100%. And even like the effort that it takes, like it actually does take a bit of work and maybe money to like find those ball gowns or pay, $20 in high school is a big deal to pay for an absurd dress that I'm going to wear to a public high school. But like now it translates into adulthood of like, I usually get for my birthday or Christmas asked just for money for my travel fund and figure out like, I'm going to go to Burning Man this year and I'm going to set aside, like that money is going to be my seed rather than like, oh, there's a really nice pair of shoes. Like I just have realized that's not as much return on my investment for quality of life as like experience, but it costs. And a lot of times people aren't willing. They think they are, but then when I so for instance, like if I plan something now and tell my friends like, okay, we're going to have to be there at this time, bring this, that, like the more there's involved, the less people who are willing to actually do it. And they're like, I don't really think I can. I'm kind of tired. All these weak excuses. And I'm like, okay, cool then. Like, don't tell me you're not having enough fun because there's an option. And there's an option. You wouldn't pay the price. So
it's an interesting thing. And this is why I try to always have 7s in my life because I am that person. So I'm a 1, which means when I'm my healthiest version, I'm a 7. Like when I'm the healthiest, when I'm not stressed, I'm having fun, I'm doing wild adventures. So I love it. But my natural, especially because I've been sick, my natural inclination is as soon as I see that anything is work, I just am like, I don't need to do it. Like it could literally be like, oh, you have to go home and change outfits before you go to this event. And I'm like, I might just go home.
100%.
That's my natural inclination, especially with energy management. But I have found, so that's why I surround myself with people who are like you that literally think like, oh no, the extra work is easy, or oh no, the extra work is worth it. Like I suck in that mindset. I always feel like that when I'm around. Like I have several best friends who all think very similar to you. Like, no, but the fun that we'll have is totally worth doing this thing that we have to do to get ready for it. It's not even a big deal. And I will literally try to absorb that emotion. And then sometimes I just use the fact of like guilt to help push me over the edge. Where
it's like the barrier to entry, but when you get there, like you never regret it, you rarely. Yeah.
So you started.
I want to add this. I think that in my world, there wasn't joy in the journey. It was only about the destination. I think a lot of people don't have joy in the journey. They're just concerned about the destination. I think that even probably how you've approached stuff is all along the way. It's fun. Trying to find the dress, trying to get the money to do whatever, or whatever it happens to be. It's that it's the painting. Like if it's a painting the kid's face and the craziness that might happen when all the paint spills somewhere or something like that. Like there's the joy along in every step, and it all becomes a full experience. Where again, people are feeling tortured by the process because they don't know how to. And I think my belief is part of it is that they don't know how to engage the journey.
Well, and that would be like in your childhood. I think the journey was looked at as a burden.
Right. Absolutely. The whole journey was a burden. It was like, no, the whole if it was like going out, I have like this imagery of the boat. We had a boat that we only used probably 20 times. Brand new boat that we had gotten. And it only got used about 20 times,
because
I would say. Because of the exhaustion to get it ready. Ultimately, it was like boating was about being on the water. All the work, all the stuff up to it was considered work.
Right.
And there was intensity about trying to figure it out and do everything right instead of like, let's play, let's clean it up, let's make a mess together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. It's interesting because I think part of it that really helped. Well, so growing up, my mom was really intense too. So camping, to go camping, so if we'd go somewhere that was like 20 hours away, we wouldn't stay at hotels. We'd stay like at camping because we didn't have the money. But she would make us set up our full rig, like doormat, hung lights in the trees. When we'd roll in at like 9 p.m. I'm not even kidding. We'd roll in at 9 and then we'd leave at like 7 the next morning. And like,
my word.
So I think what I took away from that was like, this is really nerdy. I've said this for like a decade though. I have a supply and demand graph in my head where the work and the fun, like the perfect intersection of I'll do enough work that it's enough fun.
Yes.
So like, for instance, at my wedding, I had it outside somewhere pretty because I didn't want to pay a lot of money for crappy decor I wasn't going to use again.
Right.
I was like, I'd rather be somewhere pretty and save my money for better food than I would be. So I always judge. So for instance, like friends' baby showers or whatever, I'll do enough decor that I'm not killing myself, but then I want to like have equal part think of a game or some kind of like a topic that like I want to engage your heart, not just the effort of it looking pretty or the work of like I don't need perfect. I would rather like make sure that the work matches the amount I'm going to get out of it.
I think that's like if anybody, we could stop the podcast there. It feels like that's such an important point because people typically, that's another reason they avoid fun is the stakes are so high to make it like, well, this needs to be a Pinterest party.
Yes.
Or this needs to be and one of the things I can hear is that you're really good at negotiation. You negotiate like, how do I take a little bit of this and a little bit of that? And how do I like, it's not just, this is how things have to be.
Yeah.
So you don't have like the party needs to be perfect. You're like, okay, how can I create fun and have it look pretty? And how can I go on a trip that is cheap, but also I enjoy?
Yeah. It's true. I feel like another thing that stops people is the idea of it being perfect. And I'm like, oh, like even with having friends or community, because we do a lot of people get together, I realize people have others have company over less because they want their house perfect. They want a perfect meal.
Right.
But I'm like, oh, so actually we're choosing how we appear and perfect over connection. And I'm like, it's not, the price isn't worth it. So one easy one that I do is I often have, if I'm gonna have a whole family over, we'll do pancakes on Saturday morning because it's cheap.
It's such a good
Everybody
idea.
likes it. It's easy to have a
You don't
gluten-free.
have to think about it.
Nope. We do paper plates because there's 1,000 children. And then two, like no one's exhausted. It's just like, so it's different rather than having everybody over for a dinner that's going to be triple the price, a lot more work. I actually get to be present.
Yep.
And we like had a food. So it feels like I find hacks like that and I just replicate them or like tweak them. Like, okay.
Yeah, which is really, I mean, it's what being powerful is. How can I find ways to enjoy life that I don't hate?
Yeah. Yeah.
Instead of just like the limitation, which a lot of people get stuck at, is like, oh my gosh, this is so much work. And I love even like you have the same meal every time because it takes so much less energy to know like, oh, I just already know what I'm going to do. I already know what ingredients I need to have. I already know what things
I'm going
to
to tell
do.
them to bring bacon.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, that's a lot of work. Cook it at your house.
That's a lot of work. Cook it at your house. But because of this, you do more than a lot of parents that I know.
Yeah.
Because you like find the hacks. So tell us a little bit. Okay, when you're single, you traveled a lot.
It's true.
And you found ways to do it while you were poor and broke.
Yeah, it's true.
I guess we should call it broke.
Broke. I was like, because we were married broke too. I mean, you almost get more broke at some point when you're married.
Yes.
Like a year after the honeymoon money is worn off. And you're like, oh, it's just our hourly jobs income.
We're doubly broke now.
Because we're having a whole apartment to ourselves that we're paying for, not split 3 roommates.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
We're collection agency broke now.
Too close to home. No, not anymore. It's 10 years ago. It's cool. It's cool. But yeah, it's true. Oh my gosh. When I was in high school or college, this is a good example of like being broke. My grandma was like 75, 80, somewhere there. And she had this Catholic prayer group that she'd been meeting with forever, like 20 years, since the 80s. I think it was before I was born. And I had never met them because she lives like 3 hours away, different state. But they were big cruisers. You know how that age group loves cruising. And they had convinced her to buy a cruise ticket for herself and to join them. Then she decides like 2 weeks leading up to it that actually doesn't sound fun for her.
Oh my gosh.
But her ticket's non-refundable. So she gifts it to me without her going.
No.
That's hysterical.
And I literally have this moment, like, it's like what everybody does. You wait, you're like, am I going to, like, I did my little pro con.
Yes.
Like, is the supply and demand graph, is it worth it? And I was like, a free cruise? Who cares that I don't know these old Catholic folks? I can have fun. There's other people on the boat.
I love this.
Yes.
So I went like, oh my gosh, got picked up at my grandma's house by the 80-year-old lady. She ended up being a hoarder, and not even kidding, guys. We couldn't couldn't see out of her windshield. So we ended up taking my grandma's car. I drove my grandma's car instead to the dock, and then we went up. And then I spent a week, and I have all these hilarious photos of like me in the hot tub with like the 75-year-old. Because true story, I was the only one who could join Ed in the hot tub because everyone else had heart problems. Sorry, not funny, but like he would pick me up every day and we'd go like have our hot tub moments. You know, it was super funny. His wife would laugh and take photos and follow us.
That's
but anyways,
hysterical.
so like the idea, like so many, I don't know a lot of people who would have done that, but then I got to see Bermuda and it was so fun and epic, and like I met a lot of other friends. I just had a lot of, I think it's the perspective and like I can make this fun.
Yes.
And yeah.
Like you don't feel like a victim to things. You're like, no, how can I enjoy this?
Oh, I'm sitting here going, I'm so inspired right now.
Right?
And all I can see is Jim Carrey and Yes Man.
Yes.
And
Just
I'm
like gonna say yes.
You're just saying yes to life.
Yes.
And going with it.
Gosh, and that's another time in college I found these. I know, like all sevens, when you're like feeling stuck, you like just peruse the really cheap tickets.
How can I get away?
And I found like a literally $225 ticket to Paris.
Wow!
But it left like 2 days after I found it, and I had like a little break. So my mom overnighted me my passport.
Wow!
And I went to but it was like my friend was studying in Paris, so I could stay with her in her dorm room. But like I had to get to London first and like take the Channel. But I was like, I can figure it out. And I like crashed with someone else and then just did it so cheap. I literally like lived on croissants, which isn't a bad thing over there, but like I had no money. I got lost multiple times. I stayed in her dorm room. We had to like sneak in and out because it wasn't really supposed to happen. But like it was totally worth, I don't know. There's an element, I think that's true. Like I think there's shallow fun. Like we think of like a party as fun, but I realize like a dinner party with, if it looks pretty, everyone's dressed up, the food's great, that's not necessarily fun. There has to be this like emotional element of like either I want to connect in a deeper way or I want to have a lot of fun. So I think there's this element of a bit of risk and fun. So I'm like, it's like the what do you call it? A roller coaster where you're like tick 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 tick. If you go up the hill and you're like, oh my gosh, am I gonna be home? Definitely have been homeless in Shanghai for the record, and I was prostitutional. I mean, they attempted. I was like walking around. It was like 2 a.m. I couldn't find it. It was like 2 of their national holidays fell on top of each other, and I could not find any room under 300.
Gosh.
I could actually find a room. I was willing to like go up. I was married at this point. Anyways, and I walked by this really nice hotel, and like they're like, how much? One night. How much? And I just went, so I was like, and then I started thinking, what would my number be? And, and my husband was like, you don't have a number, clearly. And I was like, oh yeah, that's true. True. Dumb thought. But then actually on that night, I like, because I was like literally in Shanghai, there's not a ton of people that speak English. So anyone who looks white, you just go approach like English.
Yes.
And I met these Italian girls who were about my age, 25, and asked, I was like, hey, my plan was to like, because some of the bars were 24/7. I was like, hey, I'm just gonna go milk a beer in a bar until like get off the street, but until like it's 6 a.m. again, and I can like go do something else and it feels safe. And so I was getting in directions to bars, like where are they? Because I was in like the business district and whatever. And then they like, so I walked off like after they gave me directions, and then I hear like 5 minutes later, hey American girl, and they like ran after me, and they're like, our roommate just moved out. Do you want to come spend the night at our house? And I was like, yes, yeah, sure. But it was scary as F for a while when I was by myself in Shanghai with no money and flip flops. It was bizarre. And I was backpacking, so I just had all my stuff on my back too. It was crazy. But
this is wild. It's a story.
You feel so alive too after you're like, I think that's one thing I've realized is there's rarely something that more money or more time won't fix. And it's like, okay, so like I can do enough planning that usually it doesn't happen. But when they do, it just kind of takes the fear out of it. You're like, I can probably solve this. Right. And it'll be longer than I wanted it or more than I was hoping, but it's solvable.
So that's hysterical. It is true. A lot of the best adventures that we encounter are when things don't go the way that we think they will, and we have to figure out how to do something different. I wanted to talk about a little bit. So you run a mom's group.
Yes.
And you are obviously friends with lots of moms.
True.
What are some of the things that you see start limiting moms in their mindsets?
I feel like I was going to interrupt you. I was so excited. I was like, I have my answer.
I'm ready.
I think one, especially in the Christian world, okay, in the secular world, there's been this more movement for self-care.
Yeah.
And in the Christian, which I agree, some of it goes too far or whatever. And
right into
it's
selfishness.
Yes, totally. Yeah. But then I think a lot of Christian women are too afraid of that, like of being selfish. So they don't they throw the baby out with the bathwater and don't do any of it. So I think it's like adventure is like, or fun. They almost don't, because different people do have different levels of need for this. But I think everyone does have some level.
Absolutely. Everybody has need for fun in their life. You're not fully living if you're not engaging in adventure. They actually say that there's 2 core human needs. Esther Perel talks about this. She's a psychologist and she's brilliant. But she says the 2 core human needs is adventure and security. And so those are often opposing. So lots of
creating
times
a perfect balanced life, though.
Yeah, but lots of times people gravitate towards one or the other. So some people gravitate only towards adventure. Some people gravitate only towards security. But we're the most fulfilled when we have both. When we feel safe and stable and like we have a home and we're connected, but also we don't feel trapped and stagnant and we still feel like there's risk and adventure. And so there's this concept. Now I don't know where I was going with this. What were you saying before I interrupted you?
Selfish everybody needs a little bit of fun.
Yeah. And so I was just thinking about how lots of people might think they don't need fun if they are the people that gravitate towards security. Yeah. And often we gravitate towards something that has something to do with our childhood. Like maybe fun is a part of how you escaped your life. And so it still feels like an easy way to feel alive and in a good way. Or maybe I felt so out of control in my life that security is the only thing I focus on. But the reality is, regardless of what is natural to you to gravitate towards, we all need both.
Yeah.
It's been interesting because my husband on the Enneagram is a 9.
Yes.
So he for sure gravitates towards comfort more.
Yes.
And for a while, I think the first years of marriage, like, if I'm honest, I thought when he gets healthier, his fun will look like mine and match my level. And I think he thought as she gets healthier,
she's going to calm down.
Calm down. But then realizing like, okay, like I've gotten my comfort level has majorly increased because of him. And then his adventure level has majorly increased. But it was truly like a journey of us figuring out what was fun for him. Because like, okay, 2 years ago, I found really cheap tickets. I was 6 months pregnant and I found really cheap tickets with my last child. Yeah. To Iceland. And I've always wanted to go. And I was like, let's do this. And he was like, there is nothing in the world you could do to make me want to go to Iceland in the cold. And he was like desolate. I'm like showing him all these pictures. I'm like, but look, it's like a different planet. He's like, I don't care. So I got one of my girlfriends to go. But like,
but wait, I just want to pause that because this is another thing people will get stuck. Like, well, my partner doesn't want to do these things with me. Yeah. I know that growing up, like my dad was like that all the time. Like I'd be like, well, go do this adventure. He'd be like, well, I can't because of your mom doesn't want to. And I'm like, no, you actually still can.
Yeah.
You can do it and still stay connected to your partner and meet those needs. And you've done a great job inside of marriage of finding ways to balance how to be connected together, but still get this need met.
And I think that's kind of almost what I'm saying with like the finding out what's fun for him. So I'm like, okay, so Iceland isn't fun for him. That doesn't mean I don't ever do it, nor does it mean I do it all the time, like adventure without him. So there's like this mix of I have solo adventures with my brother or adventure like mom trips where it's just girls, or I have adventures sometimes with the kids that are afternoon and goofy and like low risk and local, and then we have family stuff or couple stuff. So I just don't think it's like this one size fits all. I have a lot of different ways, and then like the idea of what is fun in those categories is different. So like with my husband, with our kids, we just went camping on the coast last weekend, and we currently are at the end of the month limited budget, so we just decided we weren't going to buy any groceries and cook whatever was in our fridge for the camping of the kids.
Shut up.
So we had quesadillas with like, not even joking, 6 different types of cheese. At one point we were using the sliced cheese. We're like, sure, we got this. But we had so much, like knowing like, okay, camping in the like we actually, if I'd gone to the Redwoods by myself or with girlfriends, we would have seen triple the amount. Like we would have left the campground way more. But knowing like it's different and it's okay to look different. So not trying to make everything fit in the same mold, nor neglect it. It's almost like a garden. You got to tend to all of it or it doesn't work. So this balance. So anyways, fun for my husband isn't international cheap trips on a drop of a hat. It's woodworking or like local like beers with the boys or poker. And I think I used to think it was wrong, but no, like that's truly what makes him come alive and watching him. So like helping him protect what's fun for him and like making room for it too. And not discounting it, but then also not like leaving him. There's this tension of like, you don't do fun like me, so we're going to do fun separate. Doesn't work either. We've definitely gone through things, like these ebbs and flows. So
I would say I love what you're saying because I have seen both extremes where people, when they have different love languages, fun languages, will just go on their separate directions. And fun is an important part of bonding. Fun is a love language. So if you finding your common fun is important, but if you neglect what is fun to you, then either way you'll build resentment or disconnection if you aren't balanced in both.
And I wanted to add this. I think about our relationship, and something that's been classically very fun for you is football and sports.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get into the rest of sports. Like, I'm just not a sports guy whatsoever. They're so boring to me. Like, this is such a waste of time.
His favorite part
do not
is like
care.
he will just like sit there and poke at, like, let's say he's watching like a basketball game. He'll be like, so Tom Brady's like the best basketball player, right? Like, it's just like.
Or I'll actually like pick out a player that's like, oh, LeBron James. He
can't make anything.
He can't make anything. He is so overrated. And then I'll just infuriate people around me and mess with them.
That's what he does.
That becomes my fun. But inside of our relationship, like, you love the Broncos. So instead of me picking a million different sports, or I don't even know the rest of the teams and people on the other teams. I'm just like, Broncos. Okay. I'm going to totally get injected into the Broncos, and I'm going to enjoy the Broncos, the wins, the losses. We're going to celebrate. And I was able to enjoy what she enjoys, and I didn't have to enjoy all of sports. I just picked an area to engage and come alive inside of. And I think that that's something that people miss out on, is like, okay, I hate that, but how can I grab pieces of what my partner loves and enjoy that so that we have camaraderie to share in some space?
I also think what changed our marriage too is when we kind of learned that we could do separate things.
Yes.
Right.
So I'm such an extrovert and Justin is an introvert.
I'm less of one now after a lot of healing, but yeah.
Yeah, but you're still an introvert. So like I might want to stay at the party until 1 a.m.
Right.
And he might be done
to me.
Yes, totally.
10:30, 11, I'm like, peace.
So there are times where it's kind of the evaluation that you talked about, where I'm watching our connection. And so I'm like, is it gonna, have we not connected enough where it would be valuable for me to go home early with him just so that we're having that connection? And so if we haven't had a lot of good connection time, I will choose to leave the party early to be with him. But if I'm feeling like, no, we feel good, then I'm just going to stay and get a ride home from somebody, and he's going to peace out.
And when I'm feeling great with you, I'm like, yeah, you good if I go?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going. See you later. Enjoy this. And I'm excited. I know that she's like having her special time of fun. And then I'm an introvert now, and I'm playing a video game at home, and I'm alive.
Yeah. But the funny thing is, when we first got married, like, that wasn't allowed in my head.
Yeah.
No, you did not allow that whatsoever.
That was a lot of emphasis.
That was a lot of emphasis. But it's true, because I thought like we needed to do things together. I thought we needed... And part of getting out of that codependency is that we can enjoy life separately as long as we are still enjoying life together too.
Yeah.
And I would say so you asked me about the motherhood thing. I think that's what I see the most is moms with their kids. I always tease that sometimes moms think it's martyrhood, not motherhood.
Yes, it's
where they
true.
like need to lay it all down for their kids, and they think it's selfish to have a girls' weekend or go. I think too the idea that that's the epitome of fun. Like, you have to be gone for 3 days. Like, yeah, I can't do that. I'm like, totally. That's actually hard for me to pull off too.
Yeah.
But like earlier this week, one of my friends texted me and was like, I need a little adventure. So at 8:30 at night we met because the kids were asleep. asleep.
Yep.
My husband already had plans. It was like a bunch of things that I checked off beforehand and was like, okay, this can work. And we went on a nighttime bike adventure, and we literally just took glow sticks and all these string lights, and we put it on our bikes.
Yes.
And we went off, and it was like a little scary. At points we were like definitely like truly singing at the top of our lungs because there were all these animals. Like all we could see is the reflective eyes because it was pitch black in the wild. There's 4 of us, and we were just like into the unknown. Like you get less scared if you're laughing and singing, but it's like nervous singing, you know.
Yes.
But, so like that could work, and that's an adventure. But like the idea that you don't need any, or you could put that on pause totally for your kids. I actually watched some of my friends, like, I won't name any names, but like have come to me and they're like, I thought I didn't need it and I was trying to ignore it because that was the better mom thing to do.
Right.
And now I'm actually bitter. Like, because, like it's like the introvert getting stuck at the party too long. It creates this like, you're keeping me here. And that's what kind of like I watch the moms do. Not on purpose, super subconscious, but they're like, I can't. They have this I can't over the whole season of young children because of my kids. And then I'm like, oh, maybe you can't go to Europe for a week. Okay, fine. That's fine. But what can you do to like release and get charged? Because you got, I think what they don't believe and what I say all the time is like, I am a better mom. The next day I come back and I'm like, after that crazy goofy bike ride, and I'm like, I feel wild. I feel like I got to think for myself again. I had my own time and I'm like more engaged. Actually, I had so I do carpool after school, and it's my 3 kids and 1 other kid. So there's 4 kids, and it's pretty tense. Yes. It's just like,
it's intense.
Lots of emotions. It's the end of the day. And I've been dreading it. And it was literally yesterday. So after the bike ride on the way home, I was like, I'm going to try something new. And I started this thing. It's pretty much like improv, where I was like, okay, what would a kitty cat sound like trying to order a pizza? And then I was the pizza. And we just went through the car and we did it for 30 minutes of the whole, like, it was different things. Like a grandma trying to get into a kitty ballet class. No, this is little tots. You can't commit, you know, like whatever. But I would not have had that energy or idea if I hadn't gotten the fun. Like that was the difference, is that I had surplus and extra to give because I wasn't just in survival mode. I was like thriving again. So this idea that like, I can't because it's better for my kids. I'm like, actually, you're gypping your kids of your fully alive self if you don't like get some fun in this season.
Well, and I would say that I can't go like, I can't because I'm not married. I can't because I don't have money.
Yes.
I can't because none of my friends want to do it. I can't, like, there's a lot of I can'ts that people can get stuck in.
Agreed.
And that is really victim mentality. Like we just got to call it for what it is. I mean, that is one of the things I've worked on with being sick the most is like, I have a list of all of the restrictions of things I can't, and it will feel overwhelming and disheartening if I look at that for too long. And so it's a constant, it's a constant redirection of what can I do? What do I have power over? So like we just went to Napa. Well, I can't drink any alcohol or eat any fun food. So I was like, this is going to be such a good trip for me. Yeah. So, but it was my friend's birthday who wanted to go to Napa. So I'm like, I'm going to go. And so I just looked at what can I do that will make it fun for me while I'm there? Like even down to little, like I brought my almond flour crackers because I was like, this is a fun treat for me. I will eat it while they're all eating their 5-star meal.
Yeah, not a victim. Go on.
not victim.
I was like, I'm feeling victim for you. It's empathetic victimhood.
But like I had so much fun. And when I was there, I was like, I loved the weather, and I was just looking at all of the things that I got to, and I got to be out of town, and I've got to, so it is just and even like we ate at a gourmet restaurant, and while my food was
accidentally found it.
Yeah. And while my food was less exciting than theirs, it still was better than it would have been at any other place. So it's just that idea of like, what can I do? What can I enjoy? What do I get to love about this? And I've seen you do that in a lot of things. And this is where I think people get stuck, is they just excuse it away.
So I have kind of a quick question, because I know that for a lot of people, maybe that might be listening to this, they might hear, oh, well, it sounds like she had a troubled childhood and she's just using fun to compartmentalize, and that's just like an escape. And I know a lot of people might escape into fun.
Yeah, some people do that.
But I know for you, knowing you, I feel like you've probably gone through your own process of healing from your childhood. And I wanted to kind of just poke around inside of that and find out, like, what did you do? And did it actually lead to you having more fun by processing?
That's good. Yeah, it's true. It is interesting. I think like in my 20s, I was hiding in fun for sure.
Yeah,
totally.
Especially in college. It was the first time I didn't live under such like an oppressive culture.
So you're like,
oh my gosh, you guys, that combined with ADD. I remember like sitting down like after a week of blowing off my like studying for my calculus exam. I'm like, no, I'm studying. Like I'm not leaving, blah, blah, blah. And then like literally 10 minutes later, I was on my way to flashlight tag in a park, and it was almost like I blacked out, and I was like, wait, I wasn't okay, it's fine. And then I like spent the night in the park, rolled straight into the calculus exam. It was like an extroverted high. Oh my gosh, some of my friends have told stories since then, and I'm almost embarrassed. I'm like, yep, that was me, just running the opposite way out of the pain into like, I'm gonna go to the extreme. Like,
of course.
I literally spent 12 hours in the cafeteria multiple days because I would talk and I would talk to friends through breakfast, and then the lunch crowd would roll in, and I'd see more lunch friends, and then like I'd see the same friends at dinner, and they'd be like, have you been here all day? And I'm like, oh, you're right, classes.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
So yeah, as I've gotten more, it was like this slingshot to the other extreme when I came out. And then as I've learned like, oh, health, like I actually have the need for comfort and not to be on the go all the time and not all the adventure. I'm not compensating it. And as I had to create space to be still and like go into the pain and heal. And that looked like super different. A lot of Jesus. I tease that like I had so many little Holy Spirit sozo moments where like realizing I had made inner vows against never being angry because I saw my mom so angry, and I was like, anger is not an okay emotion. And then like one time in the car after something happened, the Lord's like, I was angry, so does that mean, you know, like it isn't okay? I condone, you know, it's what you do with your anger. And then like you should get angry and be like pounding the seat a little bit, and then like it's like get more angry, you know, and then just kind of being more okay with like negative things that I had like made inner vows or compensated, or we won't do this, or we're never going to go there, or yeah. So it's definitely been decades of healing and peeling it away and realizing at one point, I think probably like, I don't know, in my mid 20s, I was like, how come I'm still having to heal? And then realizing like, oh, it's always, there's going to be another layer. It's not that I failed and I didn't get healing. It's like even motherhood has opened up and revealed ways that it's affected me that I didn't know.
Totally.
And I think for a while I was like, oh, I'm not like, I must not have gotten it because if this is coming back up, but it's like, no, it's like in kindergarten, you do different math that you do in second grade that you do in fourth grade.
That's a good way to put it.
And you couldn't go into fourth grade math if you hadn't built the foundations and like gradually. So I think it really helped me not think I was failing in my health journey, but I was getting like wiser, and it'll always be a part of it. So it's so interesting because a lot of times people say, who are good friends with me, like I think Abby, you said it before, like, oh, I never would have guessed you had such a tumultuous childhood. And it's not that I'm hiding, and I will freely like talk about my childhood, but I realize that like I've had some friends who have had other traumatic things happening, and their identity is based on that trauma.
Right.
And then it creates almost this like ceiling of like, my dad left me when I was little, so I like that is my limit. I had no father as a growing up, and even if they make fun of it or make light of it, you're like, no, like that's on the forefront of your mind.
Right. It's still defining you.
Yes. And I'm like, I did have an abusive childhood. I am no longer currently an abused child.
Right.
So like growing past it and not pretending it didn't happen, but like not being limited at, because then it's like empowering it on another level. Definitely not running from it.
You're like, I don't want to still give power to.
Right. It's almost like I have the ability to look into it, but not get trapped in it. And I think that that's one of the fears that people have in going back and processing the realities of their past is they're like, oh no, I will get stuck there and I'll become a victim, or that'll just be my life. And a lot of times when they're not willing to look at it, they're still stuck in it anyways.
Yeah.
They don't realize it's dictating their life. And so I love that you're like, yeah, I'm going to look at it. I'm going to let it change me. And then I'm not going to let it define me.
Yeah. I've seen Jenna go through deep transformation. Like you are very different now than you were 10 years ago. You are much more like, one of the things I've seen is probably logic. And I think this happens to, I know this was one of the ways I hid, and lots of people who were around a lot of chaos, logic becomes really safe. And so when I met you, like you're still very logical. Obviously anybody listening is going to hear that. But now your tenderness matches your logic, where like your ability to feel things and receive love and connection, and your softness and your empathy, like all of that feels equal to it. But I've seen that like emotional tender side of you grow year by year.
That's cool. It's interesting because even the like looking at the pain and different points, like how I actually have the best relationship with my mom I ever have, but it's because I went back and addressed it and then was able to forgive her. It's just been, and it's never like straightforward, like straight. There's been different points that like discoveries have caused distance and a few months of pain and process until we get somewhere else. But it's interesting how like my kids, having my children, actually really helped our relationship. I got triggered more and different things that I was like, wow, how could you, as a mom now, I'm like, how could you have ever done X,
This
Y, or Z?
to me. Yeah.
How I feel so much like this. But then on the flip side, I also now 3 kids deep, I'm like, oh, this is so triggering. Like, and if you don't have good, like all the tools that I've really built that you didn't have, you didn't know what to do with it. And like, so I have more empathy for this is a harder job than I realized when I didn't have children. It doesn't excuse how you did it, but like, I don't know. It's very interesting how it does like.
It's cool because what you're saying is you had compassion, empathy, understanding developed both for yourself and for your mom inside of the process at the same time. Without losing, it's like you didn't have to lose value for yourself, like the reality of what you went through, and you didn't have to fully vilify her. And you're like, oh, I can get why you got there. I see it now. Also, this wasn't okay. And that's really cool. That's a beautiful balance that a lot of people can't do. And that's also a reason that people are scared to go internally and actually look at their past, because they're scared of like, oh, I'm just going to go to one extreme.
If I get mad at my mom, then I'll hate her forever and I'll forget that there's any good from her.
Yeah.
Which is one of the things like I love you talking about. There's a lot of pain that you walked through with her, but then you're also highlighting how you can see that she gave you this great gift of learning how to have fun without limitations.
Yeah, it's true. It's interesting how like the idea of like, I'll just keep my pain locked away over there doesn't actually work. Like it's a theoretical idea, but it's gonna, when you get married, if you're not married, it follows you and limits your interaction with your spouse or what parts of your heart. And like, even with the logic that protected me when I was younger, like with Aaron, I'd be like, but I didn't, he'd be sad because he thought I meant something. And I was like, I didn't mean it like that. I meant this. And he'd be like, oh, okay. But he's still sad. And I was like, I don't understand. Why can't you just get over it? And he's like, I'm not an emotional robot like you. I realized it actually thwarted like my vulnerability with him and connection, or my like needing him. I was like, the self-protection that I had from my mom followed me into marriage and followed me into motherhood. And then I was teaching my kids, like I got like lost some of it, but then I'm like, oh, I'm teaching my kids to like just be okay. Like, and it's not so like trying to connect the empathy that I'm learning for myself, sharing it with them. And then it makes me, it's like motivation to get even healthier. Yeah. Because I don't want those to like follow me or teach them those my coping mechanisms. Do not learn my coping mechanisms, please.
It's so true, which is, and this is why I love that we get the chance in my healing process. Typically the way that I get the most healing is I get put in a situation that reminds me of something from my childhood, and then I get to make a different choice. So you get to, when you're parenting your daughters, you get to be making new choices than the coping mechanisms that you had to use. And then that, and I really love that. To me, that's why I'm never afraid. If a situation reminds me a lot of something I went through that was painful, it's not always fun, but I always feel like that's where the most transformation happens.
People usually avoid that too.
Yeah. But that's where like you get to make a choice that is different than you had the ability to make before. So you had to use logic as a kid. And now when you're around your kids, you get to make different choices than only logic. There's one thing that I wanted to hit before we end, and it's a little bit of a turning the corner, but me and you both have ADHD, so we'll be fine. So one of the things that we talked about is how people kind of get stuck in their idea of what adventure and fun is. And then because they're stuck in that idea, they don't know how to make it happen. So like, for instance, moms typically can be like, I need a getaway at a 5-star spa to feel relaxed. So tell us about like your concept on that and what you've seen and how you feel around navigating that stuff.
It's interesting because I feels like the I can'ts you're talking about, like whatever your reason is, I can't. It always reminds me of like those robot vacuums that get stuck if there's too many things in the way, and they get like stuck in the corner and they just like keep hitting the same walls. And it's like the I can't walls. That's what I feel like. But if you literally just turn their perspective, you're like, oh, I can't go stay at the Comfort Inn for 4 days in San Diego and eat at 2 restaurants. Even, like I didn't even do 3 restaurants meals a day. I did 2 restaurant days. Like, I can't afford that $1,200 trip of mediocre fun either.
mediocre fun, which I do think lots of people are like, I don't know how to have fun. And so the only thing they know is like spa and eating.
Yes,
Right.
totally. And it's interesting because I think I didn't used to think those were fun, but then having kids, I'm like, I actually need a relaxing. So I need this like buffet variety of adventure and fun for whatever I'm, currently feeling. But yeah, so like we went to Hawaii. I always wanted to go to Hawaii for our baby moon, but we didn't have the fun. Once we bought our tickets, we didn't go see our family that year. We're like, you're welcome to come see us. We're coming to Hawaii this year because they live across country. It's so expensive. And then we rented our house out while we were gone, and that paid for like all of our food budget. And then I think I sold some more things, but then we did the first part was like a backpacking camping trip, and then we were like, oh, we could actually camp the rest of Hawaii. And then we used some points for, this is kind of funny, we used some points for hotel nights so that after we camped, we got like a break, a respite, got to shower. So the idea that it has to look like a middle class hotel chain and then like reasonable meeting meals out. Like what if you went to a grocery store and did picnics? Or I think when you think of it as a limit, or like, no, I actually think of that as more fun and different. I don't want to do the same thing over and again. Yes, it is budget inspired, but I'd rather be creative and get to go than not get to go at all too. And it was funny. So the Hawaii trip, we actually canceled one of like our third night in the resort because we felt less in love with Hawaii when we were in this like bubble of comfort.
Yeah.
But when we were actually camping on the beach and got woken up by the water, like this is way better. Yeah. So it was super interesting when we got both like when we keep to this one idea of what a vacation looks like, your limit, like what if you like something else more? Like try a bunch of hostels, switching houses with friends. I have friends who switch houses where they want to go, like swap houses or staying camping, or just there's so much more than, and even ask if it's not your strength. I actually have all the time. This is funny. I just realized this. I feel like I'm people's resources for fun. So husbands wanting to surprise their wife with a giveaway, or wife, like moms wanting to do mom's trip. Like, so if it's not your strength, you probably know someone who is more resourceful, credit card points, whatever you want to do. Like go ask someone it is their strength and get tips. Doesn't mean it has to come from you to count. Like you can use someone else like a Wikipedia.
I actually love that. I do that. Because I'm like, my brain doesn't think that way. But if I can ask somebody, I can get inspired. The other thing you talked about was being okay with medium fun and like your trips to Mexico. So could you explain that idea?
So I think like sometimes people are waiting for the once in a lifetime trip to Italy where they get to take 10 days and they save up so much fun. But I realize like I actually need it more often. It's like you starve in between those. So there have been years like I go to actually annually. I usually save my money. Actually, I do this big closet sale where I get a bunch of my friends together and we sell our clothes that we go through our closet purge. And then because I do all the work, I take a little bit of a fee for like, hey, I'm doing all this stuff.
Great.
So,
true.
And then I usually can raise about $500 from doing that. And I go put it towards my Mexico trip every year where I can get a flight included with an all-inclusive resort for around $650, which is all the food, all that. And it's just on Expedia. People are coming to me. They're like, what is your hack with this? I was like, Expedia, best kept secret. It's more than that. You can be flexible with your dates to find the cheapest. But what it is the food at this real cheap one is mediocre. It's clean. It's actually gorgeous. It's on the beach. So I know that it's mediocre. So I'll budget but I'd rather go annually and be able to afford it than waiting 5 years in between these trips to go to the like level 10. And like I'm okay with some level 6s because the friends I went with, the experience I have there, like I can create more out of it. And then we also just eat out more. So we ate out like twice where we didn't leave the resort at the really nice one, but I'm like, I don't want to eat crap again. So let's go into town and find a local place that actually added to our trip rather than I don't know. So I think it's perspective, like you were saying, the victimhood, like, no, I'm choosing this. I want to pivot. I'm powerful. Yeah.
And I hear a lot of sacrifice. Like your whole life, your whole life is choosing into sacrifice. And what do I want to sacrifice? Is it time? Is it energy? Is it money? You're negotiating your sacrifices and what's worthy of a sacrifice.
But to get a payoff.
Right, to get a payoff. Absolutely.
Supply and demand graph, guys. You just can't. You just put my point into perspective.
How much work is worth how much fun?
100. So the people who are always taking trips, I'm like, no, or live in like RVs around the world. I'm like, not with small children, I won't.
Yeah. I know we're talking a lot about fun for our listeners out there, but it's something that you literally can apply to any area of your life. The concept of being resourceful looking for ways around obstacles, finding, I think this is one of the things I like about my personality the most. And so I think those are the best compliments to give other people. It's like, but the idea of like, how can I negotiate? How can it be a win-win?
Yes.
For me, like, what are the things I can let go of so that, and some people might be like, I'd rather do every other year, but eat better food, because some people might really care about that. But the concept of how do we negotiate both things so that we're coming alive and we're finding the ways that we can do this. It's inside of marriage. If you learn how to negotiate, how can we negotiate both of our needs? It's inside of relationship, like, in career, like, okay, well, how can I make this happen and enjoy this? If my boss won't let me do this, how can I find other ways to thrive and love my job? It's a skill that if you learn how to be powerful in every area of your life, you will have more joy.
I want to add something real quick. So coming up here is Living Fully Alive with us. And one of the things that for a lot of people, they're not able to do all this stuff because they're not self-aware. They're not connected, and you are not connected into your emotions, what you want, what you need, and things like that. And so that hinders the fullness of us having an experience in life that's fulfilling. And so one of the things that we created with Living Fully Alive is a program where people can actually go in and find out, what is it that motivates me? What is it that drives me? What is my past? How is it hindering and affecting the way that I'm doing my current life right now? And so if you guys want to partake,
we actually like go in depth about victim mentality and how to become powerful and what it practically means to be powerful and steps to actually do that. It's one of the people's favorite parts. We get so many ahas when we teach people how to break victim mentality and become powerful in their life, because people feel like, oh, I can make the life that I want. And that's our heart for Living Fully Alive is, oh, you can be living the life you want no matter what you're facing. Yeah.
And signups for that are happening right now at justinandabby.com. That's ABI.
And early enrollment, you get to save money.
Yeah. During early bird enrollment, you can save $100 if you want to get in on that. And the class starts January 6, 2021.
Yeah, we want to help people
course.
Start the new year in a better way.
And begin to live an empowered life where you can like take something like what Jenna said here and go, okay, what are the limiting beliefs inside of me that are keeping me from actually going out and having that fun and being powerful and not being a victim?
And this year, last thing I'll say about this is we created the immersion program, which I'm super freaking stoked about, because you get your own mentor that's going to help you with your homework, navigate the things that come up with you. You will get way more out of your course. We did it last year and it transformed people's lives when they had a mentor. You also will get to be watching weekly consulting. You might get to be coached live weekly, and you'll also be a part of the Heart Syncs, where you're going to be connecting and hearing and knowing other people on the journey. So you'll get that community aspect of moving forward with other people who are on the same process as you. That's where people get the most transformation, more than just the one-on-one stuff, is when they're feeling like they can process it through with other people and connect dots together.
Yeah. So Jenna, you are such a delight of a human being.
Yes, you are.
You bring so much energy, and it's magnetic to be around you, and that's something that I love. And I just wish everyone could have a Jenna in their life and around them, because even if it's an inner moment, just these little moments sparsed into their world where you have a Jenna appear, you're like, oh, life is so much better. It's so exciting. Oh my gosh, it could be really great. And so I just love who you are. What's a way that people can get connected to you? Is there any ways that people can find out more about you?
Yeah, you could follow me on Instagram, probably at Jenna Zint. That's it.
Zint.
That's simple, straightforward.
Jenna. And also, you guys should check out Turbans for Tots. They're amazing. They are my lifesaver hack. I wear them all the time because I don't like washing my hair all the time.
Actually, my business one is more of a my stories are more of a blog of my kids and my journeys and my fun. So Turbans for Tots, plural. If you want to see more of our daily life behind the scenes.
Do you want to spell that?
TURBANS Fortots.
Yeah.
I had a lot of pressure. I was like, don't say it wrong.
Yeah, it's worth you guys listen, that you'll change your life. And if you know anybody who has any kind of kid, it will make you look like you have the best gift at every baby shower. So
can I say one more thing?
Yes.
I was like, oops, I'm taking it over. But I realized that the opposite of like what I actually look for in my life is pain points. I'm not afraid of them because then I know I can do something about them. When I discover a new pain point, so whether it's I don't like my job or whatever, I'm like, but what can I do about this? So it's actually kind of liberating because I'm like, oh, I can affect some aspect to lessen this, you know?
Right. So if you don't face the pain, you can't get rid of it.
Yep.
But
and it's still there and painful. You're just pretending.
Yes. I think that's so good. And I think that's a great encouragement to people. Most people avoid it because I think it'd be easier, but you can't change anything about what you're not looking at.
Yeah, I would say ignorance is not bliss. It is infectious.
Oh,
guys, good one-liner.
There you go.
What a good way to end this. Well, Jenna, we'll have you back.
Thank you. It was so fun.
Yeah.
And peace out. Goodbye.
Goodbye.